All right, guys. So Prince Harry. Okay. Actually, I'm not calling him Prince Harry because he's not a prince to me, right? He's not a prince to me. I'm just gonna call him Harry Markle because Meghan Markle obviously wears the pants in that relationship, so he might as well get her last name. Harry Markle says America's First Amendment is bonkers. Okay. He has some very interesting things to say about freedom of speech in America. It seems like he's trying to import the European lack of freedom of speech traditions and way of doing things into America. Okay, because freedom of speech over there, they can ban hate speech, right? They can ban all types of stuff in Europe that would be unconstitutional in America. And it seems that Harry is trying to import some of those idea, which is gonna piss a lot of people off, and rightfully so. Let's read a little bit more about Harry's latest opinion in regards to the First Amendment. Harry said in a recent podcast interview with Dax Shepard that America's First Amendment is bonkers. Harry was discussing his new role at a nonprofit called the Aspen Institute with Shepard on his podcast Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. He will serve on the Commission on Information Disorder and will conduct studies with 14 other people on a panel to analyze the spread of incorrect information throughout the country, according to the Spectre. Wow. So the first job that Harry gets in the U.S. is basically trying to be the freedom of speech police. Freedom of speech police. That's the first thing this man wants to do when he comes to the United States, right? Interesting. Let's read a little bit more here. Quote, as I've said, the experience of today's digital world has us inundated with an avalanche of misinformation affecting our ability as individuals as well as societies to think clearly and to truly understand the world we live in. Harry said about his new job, it's my belief that it's a humanitarian issue, and as such, it demands a multi-stakeholder response from advocacy voices, members of the media, academic researchers, and both government and civil society leaders. Interesting that you talk about misinformation, because I mean, I can make an argument that according to the royal family, you were spreading misinformation when you started calling them racist, okay, in regards to how they felt about the color of little Archie's, your son's skin. Okay, they said that what you were saying was incorrect. So are you spreading misinformation? Because it sounds like you and your wife may be guilty of the same things that you're trying to ban over here in America. So I don't know, man. I think Harry here is getting involved in affairs in this country that he really probably should not be involved in my opinion. When discussing the spread of misinformation, Prince Harry expressed confusion with the First Amendment. Quote, I've got so much I want to say about the First Amendment as I sort of understand it, but it is bonkers. I don't want to start going down the First Amendment route because that's a huge subject and one which I don't understand because I've only been here a short time. Prince Harry said, but you can find a loophole in anything. You can capitalize or exploit what's not said rather than uphold what is said. Wait, so if you're ignorant about the First Amendment and you don't really understand it, then why the hell are you speaking on it? Again, this is how privileged this guy is. This guy comes to a foreign country, okay, and he thinks that he can get in a foreign country, and one of the first things he tried to do is be the free speech police and then criticize the Constitution of a country that he is living in because he basically got kicked out of his home country because his wife has caused a lot of unnecessary drama with his own family. And then proceeds to go out here and spread what some would call misinformation about his family. That's pretty embarrassing, right? He embarrassed his own family. And then this man wants to talk about the dangers of spreading misinformation. Like, come on, man. Are you serious? Prince Harry's comments drew rebukes by many on Twitter. Nigel Farage says, for Prince Harry to condemn the USA's First Amendment shows he has lost the plot. Soon he will not be wanted on either side of the pond. Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. While Prince Harry used the First Amendment to comment on how bonkers the First Amendment is, his own countrymen take the streets and freedom protest St. James Park to the BBC today. Dan Crenshaw says, well, I just doubled the size of my Independence Day party. And Rita Panhanley says, he is such a tiresome flog. Shut up, Harry. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm glad that, you know, we didn't have to really care about what the citizens of Britain have to say about us since we got our independence back in 1776. And I think we probably shouldn't start caring now. Okay, especially those who have been exiled from their own countries to the U.S. because his wife is basically a nut job and a drama queen. But, you know, it's just funny to me because everybody wants to talk about this concept of misinformation and how we need to police misinformation. And that's something that the Democrats have been basically fighting with big tech about. Okay, every time, you know, they have one of these congressional hearings, the Democrats are begging big tech to fight against misinformation. Fight against misinformation. And in my opinion, misinformation, however you want to define it, okay, that's protected under the Constitution. Okay, that's freedom of speech. You have the right to say things that are not true, right? If you want to say stuff that's not true, that's fine. I don't see why there's such a big need from big tech and all these other people to feel like, oh, we need to fight against disinformation or misinformation and all this and that. Because really, to a certain extent, there's some things that are just subjective, okay? We do live in a world where, you know, there are some things that are objective, but sometimes what people are saying is not a matter of fact or fiction. It's really a matter of opinion. I think that's why I get really skeptical of people who want to try so hard to ban misinformation. Because a lot of time it really comes down to banning an opinion. Okay, banning other people's opinions. Not facts, but they're banning opinions. That's what they're banning. Okay? And the opinions that they're banning are those that typically are on the right. They're on the right. We're the ones that have to feel the brunt of big tech censorship because our opinions are being classified as misinformation, even though there are opinions. And a lot of times, just because people are not right in the moment, okay, doesn't mean that down the road they may not be right in the future. I tell you guys all the time, I'm not necessarily a conspiracy person, right? But if I, you know, look into a conspiracy and it passes the sniff test, yeah, I'm a roll with it. You know, I'm a roll with it. Okay? Because a lot of times conspiracies down the road, they turn out to be right when more information comes out. So I think that, again, this whole idea of trying to censor misinformation and stop misinformation, the only thing it really does is that it just drowns out opinions that are not mainstream. And you always have to go with the mainstream opinion. And a lot of times the mainstream opinion is wrong. It's incorrect. But yet it's getting to a point in our society where only authoritative sources can actually really have an opinion or report on news without being labeled as misinformation, even though they tend to get stuff wrong all the time. Like MSNBC, CNN, they get stuff wrong all the time. They spread misinformation all the time, particularly when it came to the Russia stuff with Trump. That was nothing but misinformation. But for whatever reason, that's cool because it fits the mainstream narrative. So, you know, there are some people that's telling Harry to go back to his own country, right? I'm not telling him to go back to his own country, even though I don't appreciate the fact that he's coming to our country trying to smear our Constitution and the First Amendment because he doesn't understand it. Guys, can you imagine getting kicked out of a country and then going to a new country, okay, and then criticizing the Constitution and the free speech laws in your new country? Like, come on, man. Like, are you serious? Yeah, you're going to piss some people off. Like, I cannot imagine leaving the U.S. and going to the U.K. and then as soon as I get there, criticizing the royal family. Like, oh, why is the royal family getting all this privilege? Why do you still have a monarchy? Like, why is this still a thing? Like, bruh, I would never do that. I would at least try to assimilate first, you know, become a citizen. And then if I got opinions, then express them. But don't do that as soon as you get off the plane. So I don't know, man. If Harry Markle here, if he keeps talking, they may end up in Canada or Mexico. They may end up somewhere else, because just like he got kicked out of his old country, he might end up getting kicked out of his new country too. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.